champions are Victor Crump, Fleur Delacour, and lastly, Cedric Diggory. Harry Potter.
What happened? After showing serious potential with the uneven but entertaining Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I was eager to see what EA Brightlight had in store for the next installment in the series, Goblet of Fire. But along the way, something went seriously wrong. If previous Potter games were inspired by The Legend of Zelda, then Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog, mainly by throwing out everything at the slightest hint of criticism and starting over with brand new, half-baked ideas. In a break from tradition, we'll talk about the presentation first, since I want to get the positives out of the way. Goblet of Fire looks fantastic. Lighting, rain, fire, and wind all behave realistically. The richer color palette leads to some truly spectacular scenery, and aside from one unfortunate sequence, the game holds a steady 30 frames per second throughout. All character models are now directly based on the actors' likenesses, rather than previous games close enough before litigation knockoffs. In fact, the game goes out of its way to trumpet its more direct connections to the movies at every turn. The box art features Daniel Radcliffe, the collectible cards have exclusive screenshots from the movies on the back, and when this game was brand new, the North American release was bundled with a coupon, redeemable for one general admission ticket to the movie. Unfortunately, at this point, none of the film's cast does their own voice work, with the notable exception of series newcomer Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort. Stephen Fry returns to narrate the cutscenes as he did in previous games, but as much as I love Fry's work, he is clearly cashing his check and could not send more board if he tried. There's also an attempt at creating banter between Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but as nearly every line of theirs is related to their objective or a gameplay mechanic, it comes across as forced and hackneyed. The closest thing to a joke in this game is Ron's obsession with Bertie Bott's every flavor beans.
More beans! How many beans have you got?
As most of this game's resources went towards the graphics and revamped gameplay engine, Goblet of Fire's story can be summed up in one sentence.
They just didn't care!
Goblet of Fire's approach to both gameplay and storytelling are clearly inspired by an earlier EA Games movie adaptation, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Both games feature 3 playable characters that follow classic archetypes, combat-heavy gameplay, light RPG elements, and even have a similar end-of-level ranking system. However, where Two Towers at least put in an effort to compress 1.5 movies worth of content into a single campaign, with cutscenes that shift impressively between movie footage and in-engine graphics, Goblet of Fire uses animated slideshows of concept art, a trick most commonly used by launch titles with limited budgets. Whether this was due to a lack of time, money, or both may never be answered, but the effect looks extraordinarily cheap and weakens some otherwise impressive set-piece moments that are entirely in-engine, such as the chase with the Hungarian Horntail or the climactic fight against Voldemort. This is normally the section where the review would go into more detail about changes and cuts to the story, and I will give it the same amount of effort that EA Brightlight did. Goblet of Fire ditches the Legend of Zelda influence from previous Potter games in favor of a more arcade-style approach. The Power Trio magic system returns from Prisoner of Azkaban, but has been redesigned to make the 3 playable characters fit the classic fighter, mage, thief archetypes. Ron has better health and more powerful jinxes, Hermione casts complex spells that can buff the group's stats, while Harry is perfectly balanced. The trio can be further upgraded by assigning up to 3 cards, which can be purchased with collectible every flavor beans. When equipped, these cards give each character special bonuses, like regenerating health, harder hitting spells, or better resistance against certain enemy types. There's also a special super mode mechanic called Magicus Extremos, where our trio uses the power of friendship to unleash hell on any fire-breathing salamander or dugbog that dares to cross their path. Unfortunately, despite this seemingly wide berth of options, Goblet of Fire suffers from a serious lack of content. The game is split into 10 levels, 2 of which are tutorials that cannot be replayed once completed, and a handful of small challenge levels, all of which are accessed through Dumbledore's Pensive. Of these 8 main levels, 3 of them are set pieces from the Triwizard Tournament, and a 4th is the final boss against Voldemort. These must be played as Harry alone, and he cannot use any of his cards. This leaves just 4 maps where the player can use the 3-character gimmick around which the game is seemingly built. These levels are, to put it lightly, awkwardly designed and control poorly, which is not helped by an unorthodox isometric camera angle. Control is laggy and awkward, and the default damage jinx doesn't feel particularly powerful even when upgraded. Partner AI is atrocious, which is all the more inexcusable as Harry, Ron, and Hermione will often need to combine their magic for special spells. The AI has no survival instincts, will sometimes fight weak enemies for minutes at a time, or refuse to help the player with combined spells even when there is nothing else to distract them. Even stranger, the partner AI never cheats to teleport to the player's side when the camera loses sight of them, so if the AI gets stuck on some part of the level, the player must manually coax them out. Level design is just as bad. When the player first enters a level, they go through a sequence introducing a new mechanic and at some point later reach a checkpoint marker on the ground, which is where they respawn when re-entering the level from the pensieve. Putting the player in the middle of a sprawling level on a replay is incredibly frustrating and annoying, as players will need to frequently hunt down a certain number of Triwizard shields to unlock the next level, which can be on any of these branching paths and must be navigated without a map.
Back again, eh? And there are still several shields to collect.
Of all Goblet of Fire's many failings, these Triwizard shields are perhaps the most egregious. This game simply doesn't understand the purpose behind collectible-driven game progression. In a game like Super Mario 64, collecting the Power Stars is a major part of the game and treated as a reward. In Goblet of Fire, the Triwizard shields are an artificial obstacle to overcome, a chore preventing the player from seeing what the rest of the game has to offer. Harry, Ron, and Hermione aren't looking for the Triwizard shield as part of the story. You, the player, are collecting the shields to see what happens to them. On paper, the Triwizard shields and Power Stars serve the same purpose, but this context makes the former far less memorable. Perhaps the most telling difference between the two is that when the player collects a shield, there is no rewarding feedback or special cutscene, just a simple fade to black. One down, way too many to go. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire risked everything with its gameplay shakeup, and it backfired spectacularly. There is nowhere near enough content, and the gameplay is just not good enough to justify recommending it, even as a morbid curiosity. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire gets a 1 out of 5, and may we never speak of this again. So, have you played Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire? And if so, what did you think of it? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you're feeling really generous, why not contribute to my Patreon? Join me next time, where we'll be reviewing a game that actually knows a thing or two about proper collectible-driven game progression. See you later, folks.